Greetings, geeks, and welcome to another edition of the Wizards Wednesday Rewind. We are back to talk about some new comics. That's right, new releases this week for Wednesday, August 14th. I'm Adam.
I'm Mike.
So, Mike, one thing we noticed in trying to find the comics that our listeners and social media followers voted on that they wanted us to talk about this week is they were really in short supply. It was hard to grab some of these books, right?
Yeah, they voted. I think our second place winner was Werewolf by Night. My local shop got no copies in except for a few people that pre-ordered it. And then I went to the next closest shop and they had one copy and they said they sold it earlier in the day. And I was, I was hoping to get the Saturday morning cartoon variant. I don't know if you've seen that by Sean I think it's Galloway. And I was really hoping I could find that. I couldn't even find the main cover or the red band. I couldn't find anything. So I think this is the new norm, Adam, for a lot of shops is pre-order only. So I know my shop has gone strictly pre-order, except for the odd title the manager will order just a few extra of, because if she notices like, hey, 10 people are ordering this book, I'll order an extra five. So yeah, I can't even review it. I didn't get a chance to try to download it, so I'm stuck.
Yeah,
You'll have
it's
to do it. Yeah.
wild. Like I had the same experience. I went to two different shops also. Just, I got what I needed the first shop, but I was like, let me try it the other one, see if they have. Because, for example, the first book we're going to talk about, X Factor, all they had was one copy of this variant edition cover. The other shop I went to, same thing, one copy of this cover. That
The
was it.
Scotty Young, that was it.
That was it.
I wonder if the shop ordered it because Scotty Young is so popular.
I mean, that must have been it. They're like, this is going to get eyes on it instead of a standard cover, because that's what I kept looking for. I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it. So
You mean
let's
this
talk.
this
Yeah,
beauty?
it's awesome. See, I
So,
love that.
well, this cover's by Greg Land, and I think he's in a bit of like, I think he's a bit controversial right now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I think. No, look it up
I
afterwards.
just
We won't get
remember
into
his
it.
name from back in the day. He definitely appeared in Wizard and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
let's talk about this issue here. X Factor, it's kind of a new beginning. This is like the post
Yeah.
Hickman, Krakoa is done, right? So this is like, what is X Factor going to mean in the universe? And it turns out X Factor is Youngblood. I mean, that's what I realized. I was just like, this whole issue is about how do you make a government sponsored superpowered team popular? How do you present them to the culture in a way that the populace at large is going to accept them? What are the elements that make them, explode on social media? I mean, that's really what the issue is about. What did you think about that premise?
Yeah, I liked it. I don't. So, are you saying Youngblood? That is the premise where they're
When
trying to
Yeah,
make them look popular? Like that was the
exactly. Like
target?
that's when Rob Liefeld launched Youngblood, that was the big thing. It's like, oh, a superhero team that is focused on fame and publicity, and that is like the government is trying to make them superstars in their world and their universe, and that's what's going on here.
Yeah, because there's nothing new about a government team. Like
No.
that has always been the case. Like even Alpha Flight is a Canadian government
Yeah.
team. Um, but I, hey, as someone that really hasn't read Youngblood, it's been since the 90s. I think I read it and then that was it. I like the premise. I think what I like most about all these new X-Men books is that they're really good jumping on points for new readers. Like I feel like I could just pick this up and kind of get a basic understanding of what's happening. I don't need to know what happened before. I didn't need to read X Factor in the 80s. Like I feel like it's just like, oh, I get the premise. It's very clear, it's very clean. You get who all the characters are. I think I don't know. I kind of like this as an entry point as one of the X books.
I would agree that it is very clean in the storytelling. It really gets to the point, and yes, it has some little like B plots and things like that, but
Yeah.
it's pretty strong. So they are presenting first like this new team, this new X Factor. They're actually showing a commercial that has been put together by the guy who's organizing, the government liaison, or I think he's like some like privately funded guy that's working with the government. It's kind of weird, but either way, like it's very clear. Okay, yeah, this is what they're trying to do, and we see the new characters that are on the team. There's this guy named Fire Fist, and there's this guy named Cameo, who's basically Morph if he was that duplicate from the last Starfighter. He's got like
Oh
just
yes.
like a blank face.
Well, I was thinking of Critters.
Oh yeah,
Remember in
that
Critters
too.
they would do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. And then like it's weird, this like this Cyber character, which I think might have been in that Wolverine issue we talked about or something, might have been part of that X Factor faction or whatever was happening there.
My biggest complaint is we don't really get to know Granny Smite enough.
Well, so we should say this is also, speaking of things we've seen before, the Suicide Squad. So it's basically just saying that instead of criminals they're putting in there, they're putting in C tier mutants, which is literally like they're talking about like these are the ones that nobody cares about. They go to like a press junket, people are throwing eggs, people are
I hate
booing
them.
these
Yeah.
unknown mutants. You're not famous, you're not cool, we don't care about you. And then by the end, some of them die or are critically injured, and so they get a new team on the last page. And yeah, this old lady, this granny, is part of that team because the conclusion after all of it, they do have a battle. They fight this like, rebel mutant faction and all this stuff that's going on that are kind of like mercenaries for hire. They're like, this is the future. Mutants can be purchased by any government, by any organization now. And, that's how they'll make their living, essentially, if they want to use their powers for that. But the conclusion of the whole thing, which is a bit cynical, is the guy says, the people don't matter. The characters, the members of the team don't matter. It's the narrative, it's the spin, it's the story behind it. So we could put anybody on the team as long as we present this story, and they can all die and it won't matter. We'll get you new ones next week. And you're
Well,
like,
they're all injured, right? Yeah. I think that was the most surprising thing is by the end of the final page, it's a new team.
yeah,
Which I like that. It feels refreshing. But are we going to get a new team every issue?
that's what I'm wondering. That's kind of how they tease it. They like the little
Yeah.
like thing at the end. You're
Well,
like,
it's just yeah, spoilers for anyone watching. It's just amazing that, I was excited about Angel. And actually there was a moment in there where Beast shows up and then there's a twist. I like that. That was it was also funny because everyone was so excited to see Beast. That was
yeah,
the
I
one.
do want to give a shout out to the art in this too. You're saying Greg Land did the
Yeah.
cover, but the interiors, a guy named Bob Quinn, who I've never heard of, but it is
It's
solid. Like the art is,
it is so good. Yeah,
yeah,
it's very, very clean. It just pops for me. This is great. The characters faces are fantastic. The
yeah,
emotion
great
they emit.
expressions. I do want to say, it
Yeah.
just feels like a lot of the Marvel we've read lately is very stylized and cartoony
Yes.
and stuff. So it's nice to see, okay, this is kind of like standard Marvel house style right now, I think.
But
This,
we grew up in the 90s, Adam, right? Like or even we're
yeah,
80s
80s,
kids.
90s.
Like I feel like the generation just after us are really into that hyper stylized look.
Mhm.
Whereas I'm like, you have to see every detail. You show me.
Yeah, exactly. So very cool. The only other thing I'll just say is, the mutant struggle always has to be a part of any X-Men book, right? And so there is a conversation because Havoc, traditionally associated with X Factor, not on the team at this time, although they do mention they've reached out to him and he says, I believe in X Factor, I'm going to join the team. He's talking to Polaris and they have a whole conversation about how she's basically like, he wants to call her Lorna. She's like, I'm not Lorna. I use my mutant name. I'm Polaris. And then she calls him Havoc and he says, my name is Alex. So it's just like you see how diametrically opposed they are in their positions. I thought that
That's
was
a
kind
that's a great dynamic. One thing we should talk about is the end of every issue. You have the QR code. Did you scan it?
I didn't know.
Okay, so it really is another cliffhanger. Like I feel like all of these X books, they have this, and then it just opens to another page. It's very frustrating. I think it's really stupid. I don't know what it's doing. I honestly don't know what it's doing because it's not taking you to a website where it's like, hey, buy Marvel comics, here's some action figures, oh, and here's an extra page. It's literally taking you to a page that could have been printed. They're not saving money because this is a blank page. They could have put it there.
Yeah.
I don't understand what they're doing here. I don't get it. It annoys me. And they're good pages. Like they're kind of cool cliffhangers. So I will reveal what it is to you right now, Adam.
Yeah.
It's what is the character that runs X Factor in this dude?
Oh yeah.
I forget his name, but you find out they have something hidden in like a cell. A character that's behind closed doors, and they're like, I forget what he says, something like, hopefully they never discover what we have behind here. And it's kind of, I love little things like that. Like clearly there's like a big bad guy that's hiding behind the cell door. But it's also like, why did I have to scan this to get to that page that's really irrelevant?
Well, I also feel like that was another teaser we saw in another X-Men book that we've talked about. Like, I think that's a
Weeks
big thing.
ago, weeks ago. They
Yeah.
love doing that. Yeah, you're right. It's exactly the same. But I love it. I'll eat that stuff up, man.
All right. Well, one other thing that you love, Mike, is horror. We're getting into the Halloween season soon enough. And
Yeah.
so Werewolf by Night. They only had one issue left also, and it was the red band of this. And so I grabbed it, popped it out here. Once again, the polybag means nothing. It's just to notify you. I mean, it's up in the corner, so I don't know why. I guess they just need to make it more, explicit that that's what's in there, explicit material. So first off, this cover is pretty great.
It's
Uh,
fantastic. Yeah.
I would love if the interiors matched this cover, even in design concept. That is not what we're dealing with here. As much as X Factor was a great introduction, it carries you through. Werewolf by Night is a mess. It is
Ooh,
just
wow.
it how do I put this? Like it just jumps all over the place and you never get to even care about the character that is the werewolf by night. Like it's basically like picking up after a lot of other things have happened, I guess. And so it's
Oh,
just kind of like, oh, here's this guy's reality here. Jack Russell is living in a castle, and there's like some urban explorer that's going in, and he's like, oh, all these urban explorers keep coming to my castle. I can't blame him. It looks cool. And then like he's fighting some tentacle monster, and that's like where the explicit stuff comes in. I'm pretty sure that these pages here are maybe not part of the regular version where he's ripping it apart. I don't know. Um, and then he's basically just struggling. He's like, turns out I'm turning into the werewolf. I thought I had it under control, but I'm going blank at night and becoming the werewolf and killing things. But then it's jumping around to like, okay, by the way, did you know that Blood Hunt is happening? It has a big 2-page spread where it's like, Blood Hunt. Okay, let's go back to this other story now. Like, and you're just like, oh, now there's this character, Elsa Bloodstone, who's a Werewolf by Night's friend. Okay, here she's coming in. All right. Oh, also these bad guys over here are forming their new cabal. And what's that guy's name? They have both Death Watch from the old Ghost Rider films, or Ghost Rider films, Ghost Rider comics is coming in, as well as the Hood. So, and they're coming in to take over this cabal, I guess, of vampires who have lost their way. Again, I'm not much for like the fantasy horror style. Like, I like horror, but maybe with a more sci-fi edge. So, this really didn't appeal to me. And like I said, mainly what I wanted, especially in a first issue, make me care about your main character, the title character, Jack Russell. What do I need to know about him? Nothing. He's like a big burly dude with a beard, and he looks like he could beat you up when he's not the werewolf, and he's just sad. He's just like, I can't control it. He's like, he's a Bruce Banner. He's the Hulk, like, and so overall, I was not impressed by this. I would not recommend picking it up. There's probably better appearances by the character. The
is it a
biggest,
one shot, Adam?
I can't tell. I mean, at the
Like, does it
end, it
end?
does.
Does it say the end?
No, because it says next number two. So there's
Oh,
issue number
wow.
two right
Okay.
there. So it is planned to be an ongoing, but I just want to point to the design of the werewolf, which is nothing like what we saw on the cover. See, so he basically looks like
He
Sabretooth,
looks
looks
like
like the
Sabretooth.
Hulk. Yeah.
So this is interesting because like what you described to me actually kind of sounds like the Wolfman movie because like Talbot lives in like a big mansion and there's rumors of the Wolfman and once he comes to town it sounds like they're trying to connect the dots a little bit, which
I
I
would
don't
think
know.
so. Yeah, I mean, and again, for the red band, there is one other shot of gore of some people he dismembered while he was the werewolf. So if that's what you're going in for, I want to know what the red band has. That's what it has. But
Okay.
yeah, but overall, I was just like, it didn't give me a connection in any way to any of the characters. Elsa Bloodstone, well, I guess, was cool looking, but she looks like she's from a Joe Mad comic in the 90s, like from Battle Chasers. She's got like the giant hair and a giant sword, and she's got a trench coat, and you're just like, okay, I get it, I get it. So yeah, thumbs down for Werewolf by Night. So
Oh, too bad.
all right, but I think something we're both going to give a thumbs up to. It's just our ongoing host choice purchase every time it's coming out. What are we
Yeah.
talking about, Mike?
Geiger number 5. This was a good one. This was action packed. The past two have been action packed issues. Um, for those who have been reading or who haven't been reading, there has been this villain named, was he the electrician? Is that
Yeah.
his name? Who has kind of been in the background, but they finally, Geiger and the electrician finally come face to face and battle it out, and it's quite an intense battle. The art by Gary Frank is just incredible. Like there's just some shots that are totally iconic, but when you have so many iconic shots, I don't know if you
I know
can
he
call it
manages like
iconic at
one,
that
like
point.
at least one full page like shot where you're like, oh, you
Yeah,
can just frame that and put it on there.
look
But we
look at
should
that.
say,
That is
yeah, right
art.
there.
Beautiful. Um, But to me, this issue just the last two pages are where I was like, I am so excited to see where this series is going. Um,
Yeah, they introduce like this big bad villain
yeah,
who's kind of behind the scenes. You're like, that guy looks cool.
he's like, what is the character from Doom Patrol? Is it Doctor Negative? Is that
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, well,
because
that or the Invisible Man.
I thought the Invisible Man too, but I started thinking, oh, maybe he's more like Doctor Negative or
Yeah, he's wrapped in bandages, but he's the
yeah.
president of this universe apparently.
And I love the White House is like on a giant hill in South Virginia. That's where they've moved it to. I cannot recommend this series enough. I feel
Yeah,
like
it
no one on
really
Twitter talks about it.
yeah, for those of you who might be you love looking at your kitty and doggy pics on Instagram, if that's what you're in for, this is a big thing throughout this story that Geiger, the glowing man, he has his dog, his two-headed wolf dog that he loves, named Barney, and he got kidnapped a couple issues ago by the electrician because he knew that would draw the glowing man to him. And so this is about rescuing the dog. That's what really this story
Yes.
is about. And but it's the creativity because the electrician has a full costume that he wears that has all these gadgets and all these abilities. And like he thinks he's so smart because he understands electricity. And Geiger has lost the glowing man no longer has his powers because he put this dust on him that like deactivates or like tamps down his radioactivity,
The
so he's
radioactivity.
just himself now. And he got shot at the end of last issue, so it's just like a normal man fighting to free his pet, like
Yeah.
that's what it's about.
It's very what's the Keanu Reeves movie? Why am I
Oh yeah, John Wick.
it's very John Wick. Yeah, but superhero, comic
Yeah.
booky. Yeah.
But again, we're talking about some of these things are in short supply. I think there were two issues of Geiger number 5 at my store. So, if you're gonna hop on, definitely want to pre-order because we know like as series go longer and longer, they buy fewer and fewer issues,
Yeah.
usually unless it's getting a lot of buzz, which Ghost Machine had a big launch. Hopefully it builds up again. They're releasing what Hyde Street for October. So
Yep.
hopefully there's gonna be more buzz around that for the season. But yeah, pre-order where you can. But if you know you want it, look ahead. Apparently, that's the goal.
I think I'm the only one ordering Geiger at my shop.
Oh,
It's
wow.
crazy. They don't order any extra copies. I
Yeah,
don't
but my
understand
store
it.
just said when I asked before and I couldn't find it, they're like, "Yeah, a lot of people are asking for it, so we're gonna order extra issues." I'm like, "Well, that's
Oh,
good at least, word
that
is
is
getting
good to
around in
hear.
my area."
Yeah.
So, all
Cool.
right. Well, that does it for this edition of the Wednesday Rewind. Be sure to stay connected with us on social media at Wizards Comics, at Wizards_Comics on Instagram, so that you can vote for the next two books that we will pick up in the coming weeks. So we just want to let you know that we are always available there. But also, if you want to check out over 280 episodes covering every issue of Wizard Magazine, if you need that nostalgia hit, we're almost to the end of the 90s here, and you can catch up at wizardscomics.com or just search Wizards, the podcast guide to comics on your favorite podcast app. And you can binge. A lot of people come to us. Some people have binged it more than once. And I'm like, wow, that is amazing. So yeah, so go check that out. And also, hey, if you need a little something extra, you can go to patreon.com/Wizards Comics. $5 a month. We have unedited early release episodes with a lot of extra conversation. Plus, we do exclusive videos. You get a PDF scan of that issue of Wizard that we're going to cover. So there's so many more perks. You can go find it for yourself over there. But until next time, keep your books bagged and boarded.